In the very beginning, you're only fast dancing. You go out and dazzle them with your footwork.
We all have masks. We all try to find the special things inside of us.
Even though Danny DeVito just turned 80, his life story is heartbreaking. Danny has held a horrible secret for decades, a rare disease that wreaks daily misery. Hollywood offered him millions to have surgery to alter his features. He refused and burned the contract. He is surrounded by rumors of a silent blacklisting because he dared to speak up. The truth about his suffering is now coming to light. Why did he prefer the comfort to a lifetime of quiet suffering? Has the truth about Danny DeVito finally surfaced? To find out the truth, stay tuned. Against all odds. DeVito recently turned 80, but his life story is heartbreaking. His mother acknowledged that she never wanted him, and his father became violent every night when he drank. Before he was even 15, police were called to their home 17 times. But that's not the worst part. Danny has been hiding a painful secret for decades, a rare condition that causes him daily pain. Hollywood offered him millions of dollars to have surgery and have his face changed, but he turned down the offer and burned the contract. Now, at 80, the truth about his suffering is finally coming to light. Danny DeVito's real story is about to change everything you thought you knew. Stay tuned. Danny DeVito was born in 1944 in Neptune, New Jersey, and was a short child before he ever considered appearing on a movie screen. He never had an easy childhood. His bones grew abnormally because of a rare condition known as Fairbanks disease. As a result, he was frequently in pain and significantly shorter than other children. Although it wasn't immediately apparent, it made daily living somewhat more difficult. Danny didn't let that stop him, but others might have. Even when he wasn't feeling well, he managed to make others laugh and feel at ease. Later on, that warmth and sense of humor would be useful. Danny DeVito had no intention of becoming a celebrity after high school. Rather, he secured a steady job as a beautician, cutting and styling hair while interacting with customers and making them laugh. He got along well with people and was happy with his work until one day a client suggested he try acting. Her husband was a theater producer and she felt Danny had the right kind of personality. The idea stuck with him, even though it sounded unrealistic. He took a chance and enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York because he was curious and willing to adapt. Starting out was far from easy. DeVito took on small theater roles, juggled side jobs, and faced constant rejection in an industry that didn't see him as leading man material. He didn't have the height, look, or traditional charm Hollywood typically demanded at the time. But what he did have was persistence, charisma, and a belief in his ability to connect with people. A friendship was the major turning point. Danny met Michael Douglas while he was employed at a theater in New York. The two grew close. They were able to relate to one another, and Michael noticed something unique about Danny that went beyond appearances. Michael Douglas was assisting in the production of the 1975 movie adaptation of Ken Kesey's well-known book, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He recalled Danny from the play's stage adaptation, in which DeVito had previously portrayed a patient in a mental health facility. Everything changed when Michael insisted on casting him in the movie version once more. It was Danny's first taste of true Hollywood success when he was cast as Martini, one of the institution's patients. The movie itself was a huge hit, winning multiple Oscars in 1976 and going down as one of the most significant films of that decade. Danny was noticed. Although it didn't play a significant part, it was memorable. He gave the character a genuine, unvarnished, and occasionally humorous quality that was also incredibly human. All of a sudden, the man who used to make a living cutting hair was on screen with Jack Nicholson in a film that was the talk of the town. The door opened at that moment. He gradually began to receive more roles and attention after that. Being a beautician, taking a chance on a theater class, meeting a friend who supported him, and getting cast in a movie that helped kickstart a career that would last for decades. It all began with that strange little twist. Although it sounds almost fictional, the story is true. And it says a lot about Danny DeVito. He didn't fit the mold or take the typical route, but he persisted, and it paid off. That fearless attitude not only characterized his approach to the world, but it also influenced the surprising start of his acting career. Danny DeVito didn't initially appear to be the kind of person you would anticipate becoming a major celebrity. He had a rare condition called Fairbanks disease, which caused him to walk with a slight limp and be short, just under 5 feet tall. He was born with it. He had to live with pain for the rest of his life because the disease caused his bones to grow differently. Danny, however, leaned into it rather than allowing it to stop him. Since he was aware that he looked different, he reasoned that he might as well give them an excuse to continue observing if they were already going to do so. Ultimately, one of his strongest traits was his audacity and "this is who I am" attitude. Danny's big break came in the late 1970s, when he appeared on the show Taxi, which ran from 1978 to 1983. He portrayed Louis De Palma, a loud, sour, but oddly endearing cab dispatcher. Now, Louis wasn't your average television personality. He lacked charm, good looks, and smoothness. He was short, impolite, and a bit of a jerk, but in a funny way. Danny gave the role his all. He gave Louis a genuine feeling, as if he were someone you might meet in a dirty garage in New York. Audiences loved him, critics praised him, and soon enough, he was winning awards. He took home both an Emmy and a Golden Globe. And just like that, Danny DeVito went from struggling actor to a name everyone knew. What happened next? You won't believe it. The Danny DeVito way. Danny didn't just relax and take pleasure in the attention following Taxi's success. He entered the film industry because he wanted to do more. He starred in the Oscar-winning film Terms of Endearment in 1983. Even though Danny didn't play a major part in the movie, he made it worthwhile. You noticed him each time he appeared on screen. Making the most of even a few minutes of screen time was something he was skilled at. He co-starred with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner in Romancing the Stone shortly after. In 1984, Danny portrayed the antagonist's brother in this action-packed comedy. He was hilarious, cunning, slightly shady, and utterly unforgettable. The successful movie demonstrated Danny's ability to compete in high-profile Hollywood productions. People began to view Danny as more than just a humorous supporting character in the 1980s. In his 1986 follow-up, Ruthless People, he portrayed a self-centered husband attempting to divorce his wife. It was outrageous, gloomy, and hilarious. Then, in 1988, he and Arnold Schwarzenegger collaborated on the film Twins, which capitalized on their stark physical differences. The whole joke was that Danny was short and round, and Arnold was tall and muscular. However, they got along so well that the film became a huge success. People adored this strange couple. Danny was no longer just a character actor. He was now a full-on movie star. He wasn't done shocking people, though. He took a drastic detour in 1992 to play the Penguin in Tim Burton's Batman Returns, one of the most twisted and bizarre characters in superhero film history. Danny had never played a role like this before. The Penguin was dangerous, grotesque, and distorted. He had dark circles under his eyes, spit black slime when he spoke, and wore a black top hat. It was both brilliant and disgusting. Danny melted into the part. Under all the makeup, you nearly forgot it was him. He didn't portray the Penguin as a villain from a comic book. He portrayed him as someone who had been harmed all of his life and was seeking revenge. It was weird. It was bold, and it worked. Critics had mixed feelings about the film overall, but nearly everyone agreed that Danny's performance was unforgettable. The fact that Danny was completing all of this while still dealing with the ongoing discomfort of Fairbanks disease added to its impressiveness. Even though his body didn't move the way he wanted it to and his bones hurt, he didn't let that deter him. You could even say that it gave him a competitive advantage. Living in a body that didn't fit the typical Hollywood mold was the source of his physical presence, his keen eyes, and his ability to change from funny to frightening in an instant. Danny chose to stand out as a career rather than try to fit in, and it worked. From TV to film, from comedy to comic book villain, Danny DeVito proved that talent, heart, and a little bit of guts can take you just about anywhere. That fearless approach to embracing what made him different didn't just shape his acting, It also fueled his ambition to step into new creative roles. But how did Danny DeVito turn his quirks into a Hollywood legacy? Let's dive in. After years of making people laugh and surprising them with his distinct on-screen persona, Danny DeVito decided at one point in his career that he wanted to be in charge behind the camera as well as in front of it. Many actors attempt directing, but for DeVito, it was more than a passing fancy. When he stepped behind the camera, he brought his odd, piercing sense of humor along with his genuine talent for storytelling. Throw Mama from the Train, released in 1987, was his first significant motion picture as a director. Strange and twisted in a way that seemed very Danny, it was a dark comedy. He co-starred with Billy Crystal in the film, which was about two men who both wanted to get rid of the people in their lives who were giving them problems. It complemented DeVito's unconventional style perfectly and was funny, awkward, and quirky. By taking significant steps behind the camera, Danny DeVito increased his influence in Hollywood. Based on Roald Dahl's book, he directed the endearing and eccentric family movie Matilda in 1996. The film's message of perseverance in the face of hardship struck a chord with viewers. DeVito added a special emotional depth to the film by acting and directing, alongside his real-life wife, Rhea Perlman. He co-founded Jersey Films, a production company devoted to daring, unorthodox storytelling, around the same period, producing Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction in 1994, a groundbreaking movie that helped redefine contemporary independent cinema, was one of its greatest achievements. DeVito demonstrated that he was not only a gifted actor, but also a creative force with an eye for unconventional stories by serving as both director and producer. Danny DeVito co-founded Jersey Films, a production company that supported strong, meaningful stories like Erin Brockovich, in addition to oddball or daring projects. DeVito's dedication to supporting projects with heart and social significance was demonstrated in this film, which starred Julia Roberts as a resolute legal assistant battling a significant environmental case. It became evident that, in addition to humor and unusual stories, DeVito had a strong passion for telling tales of underdogs and system-challenging individuals, which reflected his own life and Hollywood experiences. Danny DeVito encountered more than just industry obstacles during his career. He suffered from chronic pain and a shorter stature that made him stand out physically because he was born with Fairbanks disease, a rare genetic disorder that affected his bone growth. He didn't fit the usual mold. So many in Hollywood weren't sure how to classify him. DeVito, however, embraced his differences rather than tried to hide them, utilizing his unique energy, voice, and presence as artistic tools that helped him become a memorable character on screen. He persevered and made a distinctive career for himself in entertainment, in spite of the daily physical challenges he faced. Therefore, Danny DeVito's work as a producer and director is more than just the films he produced or the celebrities he collaborated with. It's about how he consistently came up with fresh ways to tell stories, particularly those that didn't neatly fit into a predetermined category. He added an odd charm and a great deal of heart to everything he touched, whether it was a gritty independent drama, a magical children's story, or a dark comedy about murder. The message that says, "I might not look like what you expect, but I have something to say," has always been present behind the humor and the crazy characters. And Danny DeVito made it very evident once more through his directing and producing. What happened next? You're going to want to hear this. Louder with age. On his 62nd birthday, Danny DeVito made an unexpected career move by joining the cast of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in its second season. At an age when many actors slow down, DeVito jumped headfirst into one of TV's most outrageous comedies, playing the wild and unfiltered Frank Reynolds. His 2006 arrival contributed to the show's rise to cult status. DeVito's bold performance, which embraced ridiculous and often shocking antics, won over a new generation of fans. It proved that, even after decades of performing, he was still not afraid to take risks, stay up to date, and entertain audiences for years to come. Behind the scenes, DeVito was juggling something very personal while all of this was going on screen. He has had Fairbanks disease, a rare genetic condition, all of his life. Most people were unaware of it until he decided to talk about it in public much later in life. A bone growth disorder called Fairbanks disease affects height, causes joint pain, and limits movement. DeVito is short, just under 5 feet, and has had chronic pain for his entire life because of it. His early perception of the world was influenced by his frequent feelings of physical limitations and difference. However, that didn't deter him from pursuing his objectives. Indeed, he transformed his look into part of what made him unique and memorable as an actor. When he finally talked openly about Fairbanks disease, he did it not for sympathy, but to help others who might be struggling with something similar. He wanted to bring attention to people living with bone conditions and disabilities, especially those that aren't immediately visible. It was one of the many moments in his life where his honesty stood out. He has always been someone who speaks plainly and doesn't hide behind the Hollywood image. In his personal life, Danny DeVito had one of the longest-running relationships in show business with Rhea Perlman, the actress best known for her role on Cheers. They got married in 1982 and were together for decades. They had 3 children and shared not only a home, but also a strong creative bond. They acted together in several projects and always supported each other's careers. But in 2012, after about 30 years of marriage, they decided to separate. They didn't do it with a lot of drama or public fighting. In fact, they didn't even get divorced. They stayed very close and continued spending time together, even though they weren't living as a traditional couple anymore. So in these later years of his life and career, Danny DeVito didn't slow down or step away from the spotlight. Instead, he took on new roles that challenged him in wild and unexpected ways, opened up about deeply personal struggles to help others feel seen, and stayed loyal to the people who mattered most to him. His journey during this time wasn't just about keeping his career going. It was about evolving, being honest, and continuing to bring joy, chaos, and laughter to millions of people. Whether through a heartfelt interview or crawling out of a leather couch on national TV, this commitment to honesty and resilience wasn't just visible in his work. It showed up in powerful, personal ways off-screen, too. So what's the real story behind the man who never stopped reinventing himself? Let's find out. Back in July 2023, something quietly powerful happened that didn't make massive headlines, but said a lot about who Danny DeVito is. Without any big press tour or emotional speech, he donated $500,000 to the very hospital where he was born in Neptune, New Jersey. This wasn't just a feel-good celebrity moment. It felt personal. That hospital was the place where his story began in 1944. A tough story, right from the start. He was born into a home full of struggle. His father had issues with alcohol, and his mother, for reasons unknown, initially didn't want him. As if that wasn't enough, Danny came into the world with a rare bone disorder called Fairbanks disease. It caused him chronic pain and stunted his growth. For years, it made daily life more difficult than most people ever knew. But instead of becoming bitter, he became something far more interesting, generous, kind, and brave. That donation, $500,000, wasn't just a generous gift. It was Danny saying, in his own way, "This is where it all started, and I made it." Think about that for a second. This guy, who was once a little kid dealing with pain in both his body and his home, grew up to not only make people laugh across the world, but to give back to the very place that brought him into the world, despite how hard that world was to him at first. He didn't forget. That kind of memory and that kind of action speaks volumes about who he is beyond the movie roles and TV appearances. Fast forward to May 2025, and Danny found himself back in the spotlight in a totally different way. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and the internet exploded. The clip of his appearance went viral almost immediately. It wasn't because he did something shocking or tried to go viral on purpose. He just spoke his mind. With the same mix of charm, dry wit, and sharp honesty he's known for, Danny talked about Hollywood, politics, aging, and even threw in some weird, hilarious observations that only he could pull off. people couldn't get enough. Whether they were laughing or thinking deeply, viewers all over social media were quoting him, sharing the clip, and saying things like, "Danny DeVito just stole the show." But that appearance also stirred up whispers that had been floating around for a while. There were quiet rumors that Danny was being blacklisted in Hollywood, not in any dramatic, obvious way, but more like certain doors were staying closed. It wasn't because of anything scandalous, it was because he's outspoken. Danny isn't the type to bite his tongue if something doesn't sit right with him. He's always spoken up for what he believes in, whether it's political, social, or just calling out nonsense when he sees it. That's always been part of his charm, really. He says what others won't and somehow makes it funny or real or both. Despite his talent and long career, Danny DeVito hasn't been in as many major roles recently, possibly due to Hollywood's obsession with image and youth, or because of his refusal to play by the usual rules. Still, he continues to work, speak out, and show generosity, like his quiet $500,000 donation in 2023. Beneath his humor and tough exterior, DeVito lives with constant pain from Fairbanks disease, a rare condition he's now become more open about. By sharing his experience, he's given a voice to others who struggle with invisible illnesses, showing strength through vulnerability. So, when you look at all of these recent moments together, the hospital donation, the viral talk show appearance, the rumors of being quietly shut out, you see a fuller picture. Danny DeVito isn't just an actor who made it big and disappeared into fame. He's still here, still active, still giving back, and still speaking out. Whether he's on screen, off screen, or in the middle of an internet firestorm, he stays real. He's lived a life full of challenge, pain, laughter, and grit. And at 80 years old, he's still showing us exactly what it means to stand your ground and care out loud. What's your take on Danny DeVito's quiet rise from overlooked underdog to Hollywood legend? Do you think his unconventional path and raw determination makes his success even more powerful? Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.